All right, let's just jump right in. We're about to pull back the curtain on something incredible, a kind of hidden mathematical grammar. It's a set of rules that quietly shapes everything, and I mean everything, from the ripples in a pond all the way up to life itself. This is a journey from simple motion to profound, beautiful form.
So it all kicks off with a mystery you've probably seen 1,000 times. You toss a rock into a lake and you get waves, right? Simple enough. But then those waves start to interact and suddenly these intricate, stable patterns just appear. How does that happen? How does something as simple as flowing motion suddenly crystallize into complex geometry? That's the big question we're going to tear apart.
So here's our roadmap for this whole thing. We're going to start with that ripple question, then uncover this grammar of form. We'll see why the numbers 3 and 5 are like the secret agents of reality. Then we'll get into how this invisible math becomes visible stuff, how it totally rewrites biology, and we'll finish with a real mind bender on how space is basically just frozen time. Okay, first stop, the ripple question. We're zooming in on this one fundamental mystery. How does function, the simple act of a wave just wiggling up and down, give birth to form, the stable patterns we can actually see and touch? Well, it turns out the answer is a kind of hidden syntax for reality. We're calling it a grammar of form. See, when waves interact, it's not random chaos at all. It's actually following a super precise, predictable set of rules. And it's all based on the law of resonance. And what's so wild is just how simple these rules are. Check this out. You have one wave. All it can do is create duality, up and down. That's it. But add a second wave crossing it, and boom, their interference pattern locks into a 4-state system, a perfect square or a diamond lattice. Then you add a third wave, and you get the beautiful 6-fold symmetry of a hexagon. The honeycomb. It's this predictable explosion of complexity from the absolute simplest ingredients. And this reveals the deep principle at play here. The geometry we see isn't just random. It's the result of something called fractional cycle symmetry. You can almost think of it like music. Geometry is like a frozen musical chord, created by taking a single vibration, a single beat of time, and slicing it into these perfect mathematical fractions. Now this is where the code really comes to life. If you slice a cycle in half, you get this interaction blip, where duality meets duality. The result? A stable 4-state diamond pattern. Slice it into thirds, you get a triadic resonance, and out pops the 6-state hexagon, the foundation of all things stable. But get this, when you slice it into fifths, you get this awesome thing called an aperiodic misfit. It can't tile perfectly, so instead it's forced to grow. And that gives us the 10-state geometry of the golden spiral. Each fraction forces a totally different geometric destiny. So out of all those possible fractions, 2 really rise to the top as the master codes of our reality. This brings us to the code of 3 and 5. And trust me, these aren't just numbers. They are the 2 fundamental operating principles for either locking things down or letting them grow. And the difference between them is everything. 3-fold symmetry, that's the root of stability. It creates the hexagon, which is the best way to tile a flat surface with no gaps. It's all about closure, repeating patterns, perfect order. You see it in honeycombs, in snowflakes. 5-fold symmetry, on the other hand, is the engine of creativity. You literally can't tile a flat plane with pentagons. That little misfit, that imperfection, forces growth. It creates the non-repeating spirals we see in shells, in the way leaves grow on a stem, even in galaxies. So one code builds the box, the other code thinks outside of it. Which, of course, leads to the next big question. If this whole mathematical grammar is just this invisible set of rules, how does it become physical? How does the math become actual matter? That's what we're getting into next with filters of reality. And the answer is just so elegant. The medium is the message. Any medium, water, air, even our own bodies, acts as a filter. It's the critical missing piece. It's the translation layer that takes the latent, invisible energy of these resonance patterns and actually expresses them as a form we can perceive. Without a filter, it's all just silent potential. And look, this comparison is just a perfect way to get it. Think of water as a dynamic filter. It's alive, it's listening, it's responding in real time. The patterns appear, but then they dissolve as soon as the energy stops. It's a live concert. But tree bark, that's a fossilized filter. The resonance pattern of its own growth has been literally frozen into its molecular structure. It's the memory of the wave. It's not the concert, it's the studio recording, crystallized for good. So if tree bark is a fossilized filter, what's the most complex filter of all? Well, our own biology, of course. And this is where things get truly disruptive.
because when you apply this idea to life, it suggests the master controller isn't what we've all been taught. It's the field, not the DNA.
This model completely flips the story of biology on its head. The true architect of your body plan isn't the genetic code, it's the bioelectric field, the collective web of electrical chatter between all your cells. DNA's job isn't to be the architect, it's the stabilizer. Its double helix acts like a perfect resonant coil that phase locks the field's instructions, making sure they're consistent. And RNA? RNA is just the construction worker, the machine that carries out the local assembly orders. The form emerges from the field, and DNA's crucial job is to just keep the pattern from drifting. It provides the memory, not the original idea.
Now, if that sounds a little too radical, you have to know about the experimental proof. Biologists like Michael Levin can literally rewrite an animal's body plan. They can make a flatworm grow 2 heads. They can make a tadpole grow a fully functioning eye on its tail. And they do this just by manipulating the bioelectric fields. They don't touch a single gene. This proves, without a doubt, that the field is calling the shots on the large-scale pattern. And this right here is the smoking gun. This table is basically a Rosetta Stone that connects the abstract math we started with to Levin's insane real-world biology experiments. That 1/2 cycle fraction that creates polarity, it maps perfectly to his ability to flip a worm's head and tail. The 1/3 cycle for stable closure, it maps to putting organs in the right place and even normalizing tumors. And the 1/5 cycle, the code for creative expansion, that maps directly to creating brand new organs in weird places, like those eyes on the tail. The math predicts the biology. It's incredible. The fact that this math can actually predict biology forces us to ask an even deeper question. Where does this geometric grammar even come from in the first place? And the answer requires one last, huge leap in how we think about reality. The idea that space is just frozen time. So this makes us ask a really reality-bending question, one that flips our whole perception inside out. We always think of 3D space as the stage, and time is what happens on that stage. But what if it's the other way around? What if the 4th dimension, time itself, is what actually gives birth to the 3rd dimension, space? And the logic is kind of inescapable when you think about it. A wave is totally meaningless without time. It needs duration to oscillate, to go up and down. Without that oscillation, there's no interference. And without interference, there's no stable pattern. There's no form. Time, the 4th dimension, is the primary vibration. And the 3D space we live in is just a snapshot of its flow, a standing wave, a frozen interference pattern made of temporal rhythms. So here it is, the whole cascade, from the cosmos all the way down to us. It starts with time, the 4th dimension, providing the raw oscillations. Then, the fractional divisions of those time cycles create the little interference blips we talked about. That interference then freezes into the stable geometries of the 3rd dimension. And finally, our own bodies act as living, breathing filters that are constantly embodying and perpetuating this entire cosmic process. Which brings us to this final, really powerful idea about who and what we are. We're not just a collection of molecules being bossed around by a genetic code. We are filters of phase. This means the universe isn't just some place we happen to exist in. It is a process that is continuously building itself through us. And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? What patterns are you filtering into reality right now?